Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Boticki, and welcome to Community Lights. This week, we share the story of one of our own, Ms. Crystal Whiteside, who's a volunteer here at NAMI Racine County. So, thank you, Crystal, and we hope you enjoy.
Hi, my name is Crystal Whiteside. I'm a student at Gateway Technical College of Racine. I'm going for my Human Services degree, and I'll be graduating in spring 2017. I'm also a volunteer at NAMI Racine County.
So, what are some of the limitations that you face?
Well, with my attention deficit disorder, the main limitations I face are in education and remembering and just trying to do things that would be easy to someone that does not have attention deficit disorder. And with epilepsy, I've found that it's very difficult to remember things and sometimes even to keep your emotions in check.
Right. What are some of the limitations that you face with the epilepsy?
Well, with the epilepsy, things like driving are a lot scarier to me than they would be for somebody else that doesn't have epilepsy, because the sirens and the lights from emergency vehicles, they're not just annoying anymore. Now they're a threat to, if I'm driving and I've got this certain frequency going, which is the emergency vehicle, I'm at risk of having a seizure because it's not predictable and it's always kind of strobe light-like, and that's not good for someone with epilepsy. It produces seizures.
What are some of the places where you've actually had seizures happen to you?
I've had seizures at my high school, at my college, at my fiance's house, at my house, just even back, my first seizure was in my 5th grade in a classroom. So.
You mentioned at the arcade.
Yeah, can't go into an arcade because just all the flashing and all the sound, all the stimulus is working together against you.
What do you face in regards to the combination of epilepsy and ADHD?
Well, with the combination, it's hard to really concentrate. It can be detrimental to your self-confidence, your self-esteem, just a whole lot of things that, seem easy for everybody else, but for you, it's hard.
What were some of the experiences you had in high school?
In high school and in college, well, no. In high school, what happened was I've had people ask me if I was self-sabotaging because I didn't seem like I was applying to myself to them. But when I do something, I dedicate. So if I was going to self-sabotage, I wouldn't have been showing up.
What are some of the other things that you faced in school?
Well, for the most part, people were pretty understanding, and I honestly usually had much more issues with staff than fellow students. Like, staff didn't understand, they didn't know what it was, and neither did students, but students were more willing to because they didn't want anything necessarily bad to happen to you.
What are some other examples of things that happened from staff?
That was really the worst example, like the most prominent example that still stands out, and like with the ADD issue during high school and such, whatever people would say, it would sometimes feel like the staff was talking down to you for not understanding, for not applying yourself, and that's not necessarily true. It's just, it's hard.
So, if you wanted to tell Mike, maybe one of the things that I'm guessing could have been a challenge was with some of the memory stuff, like keeping up with schoolwork or homework. Was that something?
Yeah,
was that part of something with school that was hard?
God, I would do my homework, but I would never turn it in because I'd forget about it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And then being in the teacher role, it was hard for them because when they're dealing with kids, for the most part,
like they just thought I wasn't applying myself, like I didn't care.
Right.
Which wasn't true. So.
How does your body feel following a seizure?
Well, after a seizure, I have grand mal seizures, which means not only do you lose consciousness like with every other kind of seizure, but your whole body becomes so stiff because all your muscles are doing is retracting or contracting and releasing really fast. And so after a seizure, which usually lasts a couple of minutes, at least for me personally, at most, everything hurts, you're sore, and people are asking you these questions that you just do not care about. What year is it? What time is it? What day is it? Who is president? And you're thinking, I don't care. Who cares? Let me sleep. I'll tell you tomorrow. If you can't figure it out, look it up.
And how has some of the seizures and epilepsy affected your mood and how you feel about things?
Well, with epilepsy and ADD, since they're both brain issues, it affects your mood. Like, you're not always balanced, and sometimes you're like, well, why do I feel this, or why don't I feel this? That can't be normal. Normal people would be all teary-eyed, and I'm just sitting here like, well, what? Usually need someone to fill me in. Like, I can sometimes sense it coming, but the issue is trying to figure out how to alert people because everything stops, everything gets tightened, and you're just, like, you start drinking a lot of water, like, hey, something's wrong, someone notice. And nobody does until you're falling back, and then they're dialing 911, and you're like, no, I just need to go home. I'm not bleeding, I'm still breathing, just let me go home.
And do you feel mostly tired or scared too? Or are you not so much scared as just, like, exhausted? Or what?
Well, for me, it's not so much scared because I've had it since 5th grade. Mm-hmm. So it's just exhaustion and irritation, like, did it have to happen now? I was in the middle of, having a day.
Right.
Okay. What would you say your low point was in dealing with all this?
Well, it really messed with my self-confidence and self-esteem. I didn't feel competent to do much of anything, really.
Okay. So how have you changed that? What helped turn some of that around?
I got irritated. I did. People kept saying I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, or, someone in my head somewhere was saying it, and it might have just been me, and I'm like, you know what? You're wrong. I'm gonna prove it to you.
Sorry.
So what changed things?
I got so irritated with people saying what I couldn't do, or that I wouldn't be able to do anything. And so I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to prove me right, and I'm going to celebrate inside but not gloat.
And what's an example of something that you overcame and proved people wrong on?
Well, I had a lot of people say I was not going to graduate high school, and I won there.
You did graduate, and you're even taking college courses.
Yeah. Which I find college a lot more enjoyable just because I do have more control, and it feels more open. It's not closed. Nobody is angry because I can't understand something. They're trying to help me to understand it.
What are some of the things that helped you graduate and help you now in college?
Well, what helped me graduate was mostly my mother advocating for me because, well, I'm short. I sat in the back because last name starts with a W. So I was always truant, I was absent, I was skipping. I didn't do that. I didn't have the time or energy to keep up with all that, So my mother advocating helped me a lot, and that I had friends that I could rant and rave to about just this ridiculous thing that the school was doing. That was helpful, and, they gave me ideas and encouragement.
What are some of the things that you're looking at now going forward that help you, or what do you envision as some of your future goals?
I'm starting my own business. It's a rock and roll a cappella group.
And what will your role be?
One of the singers. It's a cappella. That's all you do.
That was Dumb question.
No, it's okay.
I kind of caught it. I knew you were.
Can I pitch a question from
Please
your
do.
your vantage? I don't know how to talk. With that a cappella group, is there something about singing that that you've always enjoyed, or that helps not only with some of these issues, but just like on any given day? Is that something that you find to be true?
Yeah, I mean, singing, I've loved it forever. And I've actually done research, and singing is actually psychologically good for you, which I did not know until I got obsessed with it.
We'd like to thank Crystal Whiteside for sharing her story, and don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Community Lights.